It takes just one moment to change a life. It's a decision or action that makes a world of difference. It is a moment that a child or teen gives in to peer pressure and tries drugs for the first time. The moment when one more drink becomes a daily occurrence to drown out the pain. It is also a discovery or consequence that spurs one to action. The moment when an alcoholic recognizes his or her disease, a parent finds heroin in their teenager's backpack, or a veteran suffering from post-traumatic stress relives their trauma and guilt in another flashback. That moment is when they turn to Recovery Resource Council for help. Our mission is to promote wellness and recovery from alcohol, addiction, and mental health issues. We work to restore individuals and families to health and to equip children, youth, and adults with the tools and knowledge to prevent them from making the wrong decisions. What follows are true stories. Names and some of the details have been changed to protect our client's identity.
Titus is my client, and he's homeless. I met him when he applied for housing, and I got to know him when he requested mental health counseling. One day Titus sent me an email, a text message actually, around lunchtime. And he said, "I just want to thank you for everything you've done. I can't take it anymore. I'm dead. May my soul rest in peace." He wouldn't answer my calls when I called him, and he wouldn't open the door when the emergency responders went to check on him at a friend's house. Later, he called me and said he was walking along the highway. His voice was distant and monotone. He was determined to kill himself, and his plan was to walk into oncoming traffic or to jump from an overpass. I tried to keep talking with him over a period of 2 hours, but his phone kept cutting out. At one point, he stopped and said, "I'm here at a bridge. I gotta go now." At that moment, I realized I had to convince him not to jump. I told him I knew that bridge where he was. That overpass was not high enough. If he jumped there, all he would do is break his leg. He kept on walking, and we kept on talking. As we talked, I learned the reason for his death wish. He said, "I'd rather die than go back to prison." He believed that he was headed back there because he'd missed a probation meeting. Being homeless, he hadn't received notice of the meeting, and he had panicked due to past trauma and believed it was going to repeat itself. You see, Titus was abused as a child and as an adult in prison. While incarcerated, he was so severely beaten that he suffered brain injury that left him mentally impaired. I learned from him that he was so anxious and so disturbed by that he hadn't eaten or slept in 2 days. What seemed like hours, I was able to convince him to go to the hospital. He conceded only after I agreed to go with him. Once there, I waited with him because of his suicidal thoughts and because of the risk of him running out of the hospital. Finally, around 10 p.m., Titus was admitted and got the mental health support he needed.
It was about 6 or 6:15 in the evening, and I got a phone call from Tammy, one of the staff at Recovery Resource Council, and a woman had driven up to our front door, come in hysterical, needing some help for her child. Her daughter was on heroin, was actually in the car with her high, kind of passed out, but needing placement. Tammy didn't know what to do, and so she called me. She was like, "Kim, I have a mom in here," and I could hear the mom crying in the background, like very loud. And so I told the mom to call me on my cell phone. She called me right away, and so I had one phone on one ear, and I called Taylor, who is an information specialist at our agency, and she picked up, and I said, "I need help. I need some resources for an older teenager." So Taylor put me on hold. So I had the mom in one hand and Taylor in the other, and Taylor had me on hold looking for placements, and she ended up finding a place and calling it in East Texas, and they were willing to accept the girl the next morning. And the mom, it was probably now 6:15 to 6:30 or so, and the mom said, I don't know what to do. She will run away if we go home. And I said, then don't go home. And she said, well, what do I do? And I said, I guess what you do is go through the Starbucks drive-through, get you a cup of coffee, fill up your car, and drive, and just keep going. I said, this is it for you. This is the night that you have to leave it all on the field for your daughter. And with a 17-year-old, with any of our kids, we cannot guarantee anything. But we can know, and this mom can know, she did everything humanly possible to help her daughter.
Before Susan came to Recovery Resource Council, she was chronically homeless. She had been on the streets for several years, living in a tent out on Lancaster. Her first night in the apartment was empty. She had just moved in, so she slept in her tent that night in the apartment so that she can feel safe and secure inside of a new place. Her familiar place was her tent, so she just opened the tent up in the middle of the living room floor and slept there. Prior to entering our program, she had an eye injury that needed surgery for. The issue was that the local hospitals won't do the surgery if she didn't have a place to rest afterwards and have someone to be there for her before the surgery and after the surgery. So that's where we came in and we assisted her with that. While she was in surgery, a few other coworkers and I got together and we picked up a donated bed and mattress. We hauled the mattress over to her apartment, up the stairs. We set the bed up for her so that she can have a place to rest when she got home from the hospital. When I brought Susan home from the hospital, we opened the door, she walked in. We walked her, I had to guide her into her room and because she had a patch over her eye from the surgery. So we guided her in the room and she saw the mattress and she looked at us and started crying. We were not expecting, we knew she would be happy, but we weren't expecting that. I can only imagine being in a place where the only thing you have is a bag of clothes and a tent that you've had for so long, and now you actually have four walls and a locked door that you can call your own. So that was a big thing for her and us.
These are not isolated incidents. These are the types of situations that our dedicated staff handle every day. 60 years ago, we were founded by the volunteers of the local Alcoholics Anonymous community. Since that time, our name has changed and our organization has grown tremendously. Every day, we work with children, adults, and families affected by trauma, addiction, substance abuse, and mental health issues. Whatever that moment in time, it is that phone call, conversation, guidance, or hug that can save a life. Your support makes these moments in time possible. Thank you for making meaningful change.